Vayechi. The Torah portion of Vayechi has a connection to the Messiah in its text. The extensive blessing that Yaakov gave to Yehudah points to Yeshua. From the scepter that won't depart to the donkey that is tied to the vine, Yaakov's blessing points towards the end times and Yeshua. In Genesis 49 verse 10 it says, "The scepter shall not depart from Yehudah." This, however, raises a problem. The house of Yehudah, and in turn the house of David, failed to have the scepter of kingship when Nebuchadnezzar removed Zedekiah, the last Davidic king of Yehudah. The kingdom of the house of David had fallen at that time. This is why the Talmud refers to Messiah as Bar Nafli, which means son of the fallen. As it says in Yahut Mashiach, just like a man who falls surely will stand up again and not remain forever fallen, so too the fallen kingdom with the fallen kingdom of the house of David. It will be reestablished, and thus the scepter will not be removed from Yehudah. When King Messiah comes, he will raise up David's fallen sukkah, for he is worthy to raise it up again. Therefore it says in Amos 9 verse 11, "In that day I will raise up the fallen sukkah of David." Another part of Genesis 49 says, "Until Shiloh comes." The scepter of David should not depart from Yehudah until Shiloh comes. But who or what is Shiloh? Almost all Jewish commentaries interpret Shiloh as a reference to the Messiah, as it says in Sanhedrin 98b. Messiah's name is Shiloh, as it is written in Genesis 49 verse 10, "Until Shiloh comes." Targum Onkelos paraphrases this verse as, "Until the Messiah comes, for his is the kingdom." Targum Suda Yonatan says, "Until the time of King Messiah, the youngest of Yehudah's sons." Rashi also follows the same train of thought, but he presents an uncommon twist to it. The Midrashic explanation understands the word Shiloh as a contraction of the words She, which means a gift of homage, and Lo, which means to him, as it says in Psalms 76 verse 11, "Let all who are around him bring gifts to him, who is to be feared." Alternatively, the great Torah commentator Sforno interpreted the word Shiloh to mean that the Messiah would bring forth an era of peace. A Yemenite Midrash relates Shiloh is an expression for the tranquility of the days of Messiah, when a man will not lift a sword against his neighbor. Instead, they will drink and rejoice. The Midrash Tanhuma preserves the opinion that Shiloh relates to the word Shilyah, which means birth sac, indicating that the Messiah will be born of a woman. The Septuagint version of the Torah translates the phrase "until Shiloh comes" as "the things stored up for him," meaning the things stored up for the Messiah, such as the right to rule over Israel and all the nations. Despite the wide range of opinions on the word Shiloh, all the commentators agree that Shiloh has a connection with the Messiah. The Hebrew for the last few words of Genesis 49 verse 10 is very vague. The JPS translates it as, "Unto him shall the obedience of the peoples be." This refers to the subjugation of the nations, as it says in the Yahut Mashiach, "Messiah's hand shall be on the neck of his enemies. But when Shiloh comes, then all nations will bow down to him. So they will no longer be his enemies, for all the nations will obey him." Rashi translates the words as, "His will be in a gathering of nations." The Greek Septuagint translates it as, "He is the exception of nations." The Targum paraphrases it to mean, "because of whom the people will pine away." The Midrash Rabbah has two possible meanings to the interpretations. To him shall be the obedience of the peoples. The Messiah will come and set on the edge the teeth of the nations of the world. As it says in Micah 7 verse 16, "Nations will see and be ashamed of all their might. They will put their hand on their mouth. Their ears will be deaf." Another interpretation of Genesis 49 verse 10 says that the verse refers to him to whom the nations of the world will flock, as it says in Isaiah 11 verse 10. Then in that day the nations will resort to Yeshua, who will stand as a signal for his people, and his resting place will be glorious. Whichever interpretation we might choose, it all points to Yeshua. Matthew 25 verses 31 through 32 says, "When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations. Nations will see and be ashamed. To him shall be the obedience of the peoples. Until that happens, the nations will wait patiently for him, as it says in Isaiah 24 verse 4, and the isles shall wait for his teaching." The prophecy about the Messiah being a signal to the nations has already been fulfilled by Yeshua. Ever since the days of the Talmudim, faith in Yeshua has spread throughout all the nations. Yeshua is a signal to all the peoples to which they flock. Through him, knowledge of God has reached the furthest spaces of the earth, even to the distant isles. In Genesis 49 verse 11, Yaakov continues his blessing for Yehudah, binding his foal unto the vine, and his donkey's colt unto the choice vine. This phrase states that Yehudah will have such agricultural prosperity that a grapevine in Yehudah's territory would be so thick that it could hold down a donkey. The rabbis interpreted any mention of a donkey as a reference to the Messiah, as it says in Genesis Rabbah, "He ties his donkey's colt to the choice vine," alludes to him of whom it is written in Zechariah 9 verse 9, "Humble and be mounted on a donkey, even on a colt, the foal of a donkey." When Yeshua entered the city of Yerushalayim riding on a donkey, he fulfilled the passage in Zechariah 9 verse 9. He is triumphant and victorious, lowly and riding upon a donkey, even upon a colt, the foal of a donkey. Genesis Rabbah relates the choice vine to the nation of Israel. Messiah tethering his colt to the choice vine refers to the connection between the Messiah and the peoples of Israel. Yaakov's blessing to Yehudah is tied to the Messiah in multiple ways, from the scepter that won't depart to the donkey tethered to the vine. It all points towards Yeshua.